You came to die today, cuz.
The recent beef between Chief Keef and Memo 600 seems to be getting a lot crazier. See, at first, everything seemed okay between them since they all roll 600. So what's really going on between them? Is this just some internet stuff, or could this all get real serious real quick? It seems like the whole thing is kind of being blown out of proportion, and it's probably because Wack 100 once again got involved in some stuff that isn't really his place. He's been feeding into beef with Meek, 6ix9ine, and tons of other rappers over on the Clubhouse, and it's been getting rowdier and rowdier. If you ask me, that's just because Wack needs more clicks and more money, but who am I to judge? So where did this whole thing start? Many fans thought that they were homies. Well, they were. That was until Memo 600 started trying to sign with Wack 100. Wack was interested, but the word is that Chief Keef hit Wack up and told him that he shouldn't be messing with Memo in the first place. Now, if that's the case, that's not quite enough to have beef over. Maybe Keef was legitimately telling Wack that he didn't think Memo was gonna blow up. Or maybe Keef was warning him about Memo being unreliable or something like that. It's not really enough to blow up over to a beef though. That is until things kind of reached a boiling point. The whole situation between Memo and Wack kind of fell apart during a Clubhouse, where Wack accused Memo of starting beef with Blueface for no reason. In all reality, it's not like Memo even said anything that serious. He just said that he has some songs that are better than Blueface. Then Wack starts playing it like he wasn't even able to communicate with Memo because his phone wouldn't even ring. And even though Wack tried to call, he wouldn't respond. That's not the case though, because Memo has receipts of him texting Wack.
Wack called my phone, asked me to research Nemo to make sure he was clear on my end.
Honestly, it seems like a lot of the whole issue is that Memo 600 was gonna sign with Durk, and even has some of his music distributed by him. Now, Wack and Durk aren't on the best of terms, but either way, Wack is upset that he doesn't have any exclusivity with Memo. So at this point, what probably happened is that Wack hit Chief Keef asking about Memo. Chief Keef probably told Wack it's not even worth it. Of course, Wack turns around and exploits that for clicks and turns it into a whole beef. Mind you, Wack literally just yelled at Memo for being just like all the young rappers, starting beef for no reason. When it comes to the whole Blueface thing though, apparently the whole reason that Memo felt it had to be known that he thought he was better than Blueface is because Blueface was offering to take him out to open on a European tour. It's not even like that's disrespect or anything, that's just a nice gesture. So it definitely might have been a little bit out of pocket on Memo there, but that's just what it is. He's hungry and he's on a come up, so maybe he thought he was being compared in an unfair way. He said that it wasn't like he was angry or anything, but then someone calls him out with a kind of misogynistic comment saying,
"You know, shit is for females, bro."
He then tells him,
Wack, you the wrong motherfucker to say some shit like that, bro.
that wasn't Wack though, so they just kind of dogpile on him for that. From there, they basically just end up accusing Memo of having low money, especially because Wack brings up that he asked for an advance of $100,000 before he was going to sign with his crew. They basically used the fact that he's getting angry to claim that he's broke, because apparently if he wouldn't be angry if he had money, then they try to claim that they're not here to argue. They're just here to help him get his money up. Honestly, the whole thing is rude, and it just seems like they're just trying to get a rise out of him. To be fair, from here in the interview, Memo gets a little aggressive. Someone pulls up on the mic and tells Memo they got something to say to him. He basically responds by saying that dude better think really carefully about what's gonna come out of his mouth, because he doesn't care who he is. He'll still tweak on his ass. When they yell at him for coming reckless, they pretty much tell him that he can't try to scare some street dudes by talking street mess, and that acting all tough like that isn't gonna make him any money. Here's where the stuff gets juicy. See, now they start claiming that no one in the industry wants him, and Durk doesn't even follow him. Reese doesn't mess with him, etc. He explains that actually that's a backup account, and his other one got taken down. Meanwhile, he hangs out with Durk every day. Then they call him out because all of his numbers on Spotify are showing up because of a compilation he was on with Durk and on none of his own singles. They're making the claim that Durk is basically carrying his whole career. Meanwhile, they're acting like Durk doesn't even mess with him. That's when Memo 600 said,
"Tell your daughter I appreciate her. Keep listening to my music too. I appreciate her."
That's because apparently Wack's daughter put him on. Everyone else takes it as an insult and starts telling him he's talking crazy. After a bit more bickering, they start talking about how Memo's weird for moving the way he's moving. They claim that he isn't understanding he has an opportunity right in front of him, and he's moving like he doesn't. Then he explains that he's different because he's from the rack, not from the burbs. Someone jumps on the line after that and says some stuff that at first sounded extremely out of pocket. He said,
"That's why rappers get killed.
A little more argument happens for a minute, and then Memo basically says,
You say that's how your mama died. What'd he say? What'd he say?
Oh, wow.
he goes on to explain himself, saying that what he meant was that this is how rappers die. You're gonna do stuff in the music industry acting tough, and then you make enemies that are real street, and that's how rappers die. Doesn't that almost sound like a threat? I mean, it could have been an innocent enough comment, but that's still a weird thing to just bring up after your crew starts talking about how street they are. In another room, Memo and
Talking about that. I'm gonna put your big
With that too.
Memo tells Wack he's gonna die if that ever happens. Pretty much since then, there hasn't really been a lot of talking between them. So now that we have some context on why everything started going down, what else happened between Memo and Chief Keef exactly? Well, once Memo heard from Wack that Chief Keef had maybe said about him and his music, he went for the throat. He got into a chat room to talk about it and said that he's coming for Sosa if it really went down like that. Then he calls Chief Keef out for something that apparently happened back on the streets. Memo says that he took Keef out on a hit, and instead of being a shooter, he ran as soon as Memo fired a shot. At the same time, he also makes it clear that he hopes what Wack said isn't true. If it is, he's gonna get to exposing Keef. Then he talks some smack on pretty much all the Glow Gang, saying that he's better than any of them. He goes name by name, talking about how they're a whole crew of cornballs and goofies. He says that he's gonna treat them like they 4K Trey, like the ops, and that it's all on sight as soon as he sees them. The whole issue is that he's been manipulated into the spot by Wack, who was probably just trying to teach him a lesson. If you're angry and you're burning bridges, you're gonna have a problem in the industry. And that's true. He's probably just learning that now, because after cutting ties with the Glow Gang and going in on the whole crew, there's no way that GBE is going to be putting on him. On the other hand, it seems like he's pretty close to Dirk, even though Wack sounded like he was trying to sabotage that relationship too. Wack made it sound like Dirk didn't even want to mess with him because he was constantly using Dirk to co-sign all his stuff, and he was piggybacking off Dirk so hard that he was never going to have his own career. The good thing for Memo is that Dirk and Wack don't really mess with each other at all, so he can't do nothing there. Either way, the whole thing is crazy. And the worst part is both sides are absolutely going too far with it. Of course, Memo should have dropped the Blueface thing and played nice with Wack and his crew, but at the same time, of course, Memo felt wronged by all that. There were a few tweets too, and a lot of people think they were about Memo. Keef tweeted this, "Do a lot of cocksucking." Most people thought that was specifically about Memo and Dirk, since Memo is constantly name-checking Dirk. Meanwhile, Memo was tweeting too, saying stuff like, "Attitude done change up on a lot of you who wasn't here for me." He also said, "Make me mad enough I spin through there myself, say the wrong shit." Of course, Twitter is coming out with some opinions on the feud, saying things like, "All the Chief Keef fake beef since Fredo died." Another fan called out Memo for being angry all the time, starting problems where there aren't any, saying, "This why Memo will stay where he at, lol. He's got to stop coming to the internet airing out their grievances." And last I checked, OTF scoreboard is down. How y'all feeling on this though? Is there really any beef here, or was Wack just trying to drum up some gossip for views? Let us know what you think down below in the comments. Make you check out this next one too.